Hello everyone, welcome to the SPFx CI/CD using GitHub Actions presentation. Before starting, I would like to thank all the organizers of the Microsoft Virtual Summit Spain event for all the help and coordination. And thank you very much, guys. I would also like to thank the Office 365 CLI team, Waldek, Velin, and Gary for all the help with GitHub Actions for Office 365 CLI. Right. So this presentation is divided into three parts. In the first part, we'll be explaining or we'll be looking at what GitHub Actions are and what are the basics of GitHub Actions. In the next part, we'll be looking at GitHub Actions for a SharePoint framework project. And we'll be concluding with briefly building a simple GitHub action using TypeScript. Right, and by the end of this presentation, you'll be knowing what a GitHub action is, and you'll also be in a position to create a GitHub action using TypeScript. My name is Anoop. I am a SharePoint developer at Content and Code in London. That's my Twitter handle, Anoop Tells, and I do write blogs using Medium under the account Anoop T. So if you want, you can follow me on those platforms. Right. What are GitHub Actions? So until last year, all we could do on GitHub was host the code and share it with others. There was no ability to run the code. What I mean by running is, let's say if we have a web application solution hosted on GitHub, all we could do was have the code of that web application over there and share it with our fellow developers. We didn't have the ability to, say, build the web application, package it up, and deploy it onto somewhere in Azure, for example. With the introduction of GitHub Action, all this is possible. So the running part, which is building the code, packaging it up, and deploying it onto Azure, is possible using GitHub Actions. So to do that, what we did earlier was went to GitHub, downloaded the code from GitHub onto our machines, and then performed the actions of building that solution, packaging it up, and then deploying onto Azure. So now those particular tasks, which is the running part, can be done directly on GitHub. There's no need to download the code onto our machine and do these actions. So that's in brief what GitHub Actions are. We will take a deeper look, but yeah, I just wanted to give you an overview first. Now, before looking into GitHub Actions, we need to understand what a GitHub workflow is. So GitHub workflow, like any other workflow, is a set of tasks that start executing or that get executed when there is an event in the GitHub repository. Now, if you take an example, let's say I have a repository on GitHub and I push some code onto it, then I can have a workflow which triggers, and then that workflow will build the code that I've just pushed, and then once the build is successful, it will send an email saying the build has been complete. That's what a GitHub workflow in essence is. So I mentioned about these. I mentioned that GitHub workflow is a set of tasks. Now you can imagine a GitHub action as one of these tasks. So yeah, instead of imagining, let's take a look at a workflow itself. So that would be easier, will it not? Right. So let's look at the elements in a workflow. So each workflow consists of an event from which it is triggered. So this event can be something like a push event, i.e. when code is pushed onto a GitHub repository, or say a pull request, or when an issue is open. So you name the event and GitHub have created trigger for the events. The best part is you can also decide at the branch level. Say, for example, if I want to trigger a workflow on when a file is pushed onto the master branch, or say when there is a pull request open on the develop branch, then we have that level of control on triggering the workflow. So that's the event part of the workflow. And the next one is the host machine. So, earlier I mentioned the running part, which is, building our web application, packaging it up and deploying. Now all this has to run somewhere, right? So that's the host machine. Without GitHub Actions, our physical machines or our laptops or our computers would be the host machine. But now with GitHub Actions, GitHub provide you these machines in the cloud, and then you can make use of those to do the running part. So that host machine can be a Windows machine or a Linux machine or a Mac machine. We can decide what operating system we want to use. So that's the second element of the workflow. And the next one is a set of tasks. So that's marked over here. So I just want to introduce one more concept here called as a job. So a set of tasks in a workflow is called as a job. So these tasks can be, a simple task, say a line of code which prints hello world, or it can be a complex task which does the functionality like building our web application and deploying our web application. So those are the different kind of tasks that can be written in a workflow. Now let's quickly look at a simple workflow, how to create a workflow, how to add tasks, and how to run it. Right. Over here, I have a repository in GitHub. Now that's it is a SharePoint framework project, but for this first demo, it doesn't matter what kind of project you have. So you click on the Actions button in the repository, and then you see the button called New Workflow. Just click on that, and it gives you with several options that you can use to create a workflow. For this particular demo, we'll be setting up a simple workflow. So just click on that, and then that's it. GitHub has created a workflow for you. It's nothing but a YAML file with some set of instructions. So GitHub, since we have selected a simple workflow, GitHub has created this simple YAML for us. So instead of naming it as blank, I'll call it as simple. And let's look at the different elements now. So as I showed in the slide earlier, we've got the different events on which the workflow triggers. In this case, we have two events. It can either be a push event or a pull request event, and both are on the master branch. And then we have a set of tasks. So as you can see, a set of tasks is called a job. In this case, we have named the job as build job. You can name it anything that you want, but for now, let's call it build. And the next element was the host machine. So as you can see here, we are using Ubuntu, a machine with Ubuntu installed on it, the latest version. So that's the host machine. And then you can see all these, sorry, not that one. You can see all the different tasks that I explained earlier. So we've just ignore the first task for now. We'll come to that later. But if you see, there's a task here called as run one-line script, and all that does is just runs a one-line script, i.e. echo hello world, because this is our first workflow and we have to print hello world. That's the basic rule. And then we have another task which instead of running one line, it runs 2 lines of script, and again just echoes some message. Right, so we have our simple workflow ready, and it should run when something is pushed onto the repository. So what we'll do is we'll check in this file or commit this file or push this file onto the repository, and then we'll give a name saying added workflow file, and then commit this file. So now a file has been pushed onto the repository. That means the workflow should have started. And to look at the workflow, just click on the actions again, and it shows the commit message. That will be the name of the workflow. And then you can see that there is the build job. So if we click on that, we should see the actions that will start running. So let's give it a minute, because it has to spin up a machine somewhere in the cloud and then start running the workflow. So depending upon I don't know what is the factor on which the workflow run is decided, but I've seen in the past that sometimes it's very quick. As soon as I commit a file, the workflow runs. Sometimes it takes about 30 to 40 seconds. But yeah, as you can see, the workflow has now run. So because we pushed the file, the workflow triggered, and then it ran the first task, which is printing hello world, and then it also ran the second task, which is printing 2 lines and 2 lines of 2 lines of messages. Right. So that's what a simple workflow is. Now, if we want to create a GitHub workflow and use it properly, we don't want to create these simple tasks like printing messages and things like that. We want to do something more. We want to, I'll come back to my example again. I'll keep coming back to it again and again. We want to build the code, package it, and deploy it. So we want to, instead of writing echo in our workflow, we want to say write some script that will build our web application, package our web application, and deploy our web application. Now, the thing is, we can write the script for all these ourselves, but since these are common actions, our fellow developers would have already written code for this. So what we can do is, instead of writing that build code and this packaging code and the deploying code ourselves, we will just make use of the code that has been written by someone else already, and that code which has been written by someone else already will be hosted in GitHub, and that code is called as GitHub Actions. So imagine that someone has created a GitHub action that will take your code and build it. And there might be another GitHub action that will take your code and package it. And there will be a third action which will take your package and then deploy it. So there will be these actions, and all we have to do is just consume those actions in our workflow. So this is something like a DLL, if you think about it, or a library that we refer it. Someone has already created the library, has done all the hard work of writing the code, and all we do is just refer that code. In the same way, someone has already done all the hard work of creating the different actions for deploying, building, and all we do is refer that. All we do is refer that code in our workflow. Now, before jumping on to these complex actions which are building the code, packaging the code, and deploying, let's look at a simple GitHub action. In particular, we will look at an action which puts our workflow into sleep for some time. Now, again, I'll just go back to the workflow file. So click on code, and then workflows, and then the workflow file. And I'll edit that workflow. So what I want to do is, after running the first task, which is echoing hello world, I want my workflow to sleep for 5 seconds and then go on to the next task. Now, what I could do is maybe something like I can give it a name, saying sleep, whatever, if I can spell that properly, and then put a run command, and then write the script which does the sleeping activity. Of course, that's not the right script, but I can write a script which puts the workflow into sleep. However, what we know is there is someone, since sleep is a common action, someone would have already written the code for it. So if I just go into the GitHub marketplace and search for sleep, this is one of the actions that I've got. So as you can see, they have said in order to use this action in your workflow, what you have to do is just consume that action in your workflow. So instead of writing the script, what I'll do is I'll just use this particular action. So I'll copy this whole thing, come back to my workflow and remove all this, and then write the sleep command, and then put some indentation. Wait a minute. Instead of sleeping for 10 seconds, I want it to sleep for 5 seconds. And then I'll specify the, so this GitHub action wants to know for how long your workflow has to sleep. That's why it accepts time as an input parameter. So we specify time as 5 seconds. And then we save this file. So basically, we are not changing any the trigger of the workflow, so it still will run when we push file onto this repository. And because we have changed this particular file, the workflow should run. So I'll commit that file and then go on to actions, and then I can see that the workflow has started. Again, I click on the build job, and depending upon our luck, the workflow should start. Oh yeah, that's good. So it has started. It ran the first task, and then went into sleep, and then went on to the next task, the second one, writing the multi-line script, and then finished the workflow. So if I just show you the time which it took to execute all the tasks, so you can see that there was a break of 6 seconds. I mean, it was 5 seconds, but I think the way it outputs is 6 seconds, but it just varies. Like it'll be 5 or 6 seconds. So essentially, the main thing was the workflow was paused for some time, and then it went on to the next task. So just to recap, what we did here was we consumed a GitHub action called as sleep that was written by our fellow developer into our workflow. So that's how easy it is to consume an action. So the sleep action which was written by our fellow developer has some code which puts the workflow into sleep. We didn't have to write the code. All we did was we just used that action. So we specified that we specified an input to that action saying time as 5 seconds, and the code for the action looked into that input and analyzed that it has to sleep for 5 seconds, and kept made sure that the workflow was paused for 5 seconds. Yeah, so you can think of it as, we are calling a function in our code. So because a function does some kind of task, in the same way here an action does some kind of task. Yeah, there are different ways of looking at it. So I hope you have understood the gist. Right. Now, just to recap on the workflow events. So I mentioned earlier, a workflow can trigger on push or pull request. As we saw earlier, there was a push event. The other types of events are when an issue is opened or an issue is edited, when a label is created, label is deleted. You just name them, and then GitHub have triggers for all of those. So you can imagine the workflows that you can create for different types of triggers. So say, for example, when a label is created, you might want to send an email to the owner of the repository saying the label was created, or when an issue is, or when someone opens a pull request, you might want to send them a welcome message saying thank you for opening a pull request. So the scenarios are enormous. So you can just create as many actions as you want based on the event. And then just a word on the yeah. So sorry about the glitch there. There was some issue with the network. Hope all this goes properly now. Yeah. So yeah, regarding the host machines, so we in our workflow we get to decide what about host machine we can use in order to run these run the GitHub workflow. And we also had a look at how to create a workflow, and then we also had a look at how to monitor the workflow. So yeah, just to recap till now, what we have seen is what GitHub Actions are, and how do we what a GitHub workflow is, how do we create a workflow, and how do we create simple tasks in a workflow, and then how do we consume simple GitHub Actions in a workflow. So with that covered, we'll go on to the next step, which is using GitHub Actions in a SharePoint framework project. Till now, we've been looking at all these simple bits. Now let's look into the slightly complex bits. I won't say these are complex, but yeah, they are not the simple ones that we saw earlier. So if we have a SharePoint framework project hosted in our GitHub, then maybe we want to write a workflow which will say build our SPFx solution. Build our SPFx solution and create the SPPKG file and then deploy it onto our tenant. Now, we can do all this using a GitHub workflow. For that, instead of writing the tasks that we saw earlier, which is the echo hello world, we could write some scripts that will build the SPPKG file, that is gulp, bundle, and ship, and then we could install the install the app in our tenant, and then also deploy it in our tenant. Now we could write code for all these, but we have Office 365 CLI that will help us with this. So before looking into these the CLI commands, let me quickly tell you what Office 365 CLI is. So Office 365 CLI is a command line interface that helps you manage your Office 365 tenant. So it can run, you can install it on any machine, be it Windows or Linux or Mac. All you have to do is just run that command npm I and then PnP Office 365 CLI, and that will install Office 365 CLI onto your machine. And you are then ready to manage your tenant. So to give you an example, let's look at some of the commands that we can use with Office 365 CLI. Say, for example, if you want to I just search for this. If you want to know the status of your tenant, then say if you want to know the status of your tenant, you can use this command called tenant status list, and that'll list the status of your tenant. Sorry for the disturbance there. Yeah. So yeah, as I was saying, you can run this command tenant status list, and that will give you the status of all the different applications in your tenant. So this Office 365 CLI can be run by an administrator who has enough permissions, and then depending upon what commands are being run, you can anyone who's comfortable with PowerShell can, and Office 365 itself can run the commands. Now, apart from the tenant option, one other thing, or one of the many other things that Office 365 provides is some commands with SharePoint Online. So we will be making use of those commands in our GitHub workflow to do the deployment, to do the building, packaging, and the deployment. Now, one of the commands is app deploy. So if we run this command in Office 365 CLI, which is SPO app deploy, it will deploy the SPPKG file onto our tenant. And then there's also a command called app install. So if we run SPO app install, then it will install the app in our tenant. So let me explain you a scenario before jumping into these GitHub Actions using Office 365 CLI. Still looking at the recording. Yeah, hope everything's going okay. Right. So let's imagine that we have our SPFx code in GitHub, and if we want to deploy it onto, say, our tenant, then one option we have is downloading that SPFx project onto our machine, installing Office 365 CLI onto our machine, and then running the deploy command, the install command, the deploy command, etc., to deploy the SharePoint package onto our tenant. Now, instead of doing this, i.e. the second part, which is installing Office 365 CLI onto our machine and then building and deploying, what we can do is we can do the same thing in GitHub. So we'll ask GitHub to host a machine, and then we'll tell GitHub to install Office 365 CLI on that machine, and then log into the tenant, build our SharePoint framework project, and then use the deploy and the install command to deploy the app in our tenant. So that's how we'll be making the use of GitHub, the Office 365 CLI in GitHub Actions. Enough talking. Let's take a look at the these actions itself. So what we have done is we have created 3 actions using Office 365 CLI. The first one is called as the Logon Action. As we saw earlier, each action has got a path where it is present, and then it has some parameters that it accepts. So in this particular case, what we can see is the name of the action is Action CLI Login, and that is present under the PnP repository. and then this action accepts two parameters, which is the admin username and password. So in order to log into a tenant, we need to pass a username and password. I just now you might be seeing this word called as secrets. So that one essentially. So I'm wondering what secrets are. So in GitHub, you can create secrets at a repository level. So think of secrets as constants, and you can create them only once, and you can't edit them. All you can do is just delete them. So say if I have a secret for admin username, I can't edit that. If I want to edit it, I have to delete that admin username secret and then create a new one called as admin username. And even if you're the owner of the repository, you cannot know what is the value of the secret, because once it is created, that's it. You cannot read that as a owner. Only the GitHub Actions have permissions to read the secrets. Hence, they are actually secrets. So once you create these secrets, only actions can use these secrets or read the secrets. So you might be thinking, can I not write a script that will just output this secret in the workflow like we did, echo hello world. In the same way, if I say echo secrets dot admin username, well, you can try that, but GitHub is very clever. All it does is it just gives you 3 stars. It doesn't output the secret at all. So it keeps it as a secret as per the name. Right. So sorry for the diversion there. That I just wanted to explain what secrets were. Now just coming back to the login action. So this CLI login action, what it does is it takes the admin username and a password as the input, and then logs you into the tenant. So just going back to Office 365 CLI again and looking at the login command, if you see here, this login command, in order to log into your tenant, it needs a username and password, and that's why this action also expects the same. Right. The next action that we have created is deploy app. Now this action, what it does is it takes SPPKG file as the input. So we have to specify the path of the SPPKG file, and then it deploys it onto the tenant in which you have logged in. Now, specifying this path. So if you are familiar with SharePoint framework projects, whenever we do a gulp bundle and gulp package solution, the solution, the SPPKG file gets created in the SharePoint/solution folder. Because we'll be running the in our workflow, as you'll see in the next few slides, we will be running the gulp bundle and gulp package solution with the defaults, and it will create a SPPKG file in this particular folder. So be it any machine that it runs on Windows or Linux or Mac, it will be in this folder, and we specify the relative path to that file, which is SharePoint solution, and GitHub Action. This GitHub Action is clever enough to read the full path and then deploy the solution onto your tenant. And then we've got the third action, which is the final one, which is a generic action, a run script action. All this action does is runs a script that you specify. So say, for example, after building and deploying the SPPKG onto your tenant, you might want to send an email saying that the build is complete. So we can for that particular thing, we can use this action, and it'll take care of sending an email. So those are the 3 actions that we have created. Now let's look at how to use these actions in the workflow. So I will be showing you the actual workflow in a minute, but before that, I just want to explain the structure of that workflow. So as with every workflow, we've got an event on which it should trigger. In this particular case, we'll be triggering it on push event, and then we'll be using the host machine as a Linux machine. So the first thing we'll do is run an npm install. In this case, we'll run npm CI, and then we'll run gulp bundle and gulp package solution. So this will install all the required packages onto the host machine and run gulp bundle -ship and gulp package solution, which will create the SPPKG file in the Sharepoint/solution folder on the host machine. Now that we have the SPPKG file, we'll start using the GitHub Actions. The first action we'll use is CLI login. Again, we could have written the CLI login script ourselves in the workflow, but why not make use of the action that is already there and keep the workflow very simple? So we log into this tenant using the CLI action. Then we run the deploy command, and which will deploy the app onto the tenant. And finally, we run the run script action. Now, you might be wondering, why can you not run the Office 365 CLI login script directly in the workflow? As I said, you can do that, but before that, what you have to do is run an npm install of Office 365 CLI, because the host machine on which you run the CLI commands will not have Office 365 CLI installed on it. So you have to run the npm install Office 365 CLI first, and then run the script which does the login, and then you can write the script for deploy and even the other scripts. But the CLI login action, if you just pass the username and password, it knows that it has to install Office 365 CLI. So that is taken care by the login action. And with respect to deploy action, there's no need for you to again write that script to install the app and then deploy the app. This deploy action takes care of both of them. And then the CLI script, for this, if you just pass in the script, it will take care of running that script. So that's how we will be using those actions. So once again, these actions are hosted in the PnP repository, and we'll be just consuming these actions in our workflow. Right. Let's look into that workflow. So first of all, I'll just go to the repository and to the code. Excuse the background noise. Sorry about that. So we no longer need this simple YAML workflow, so I'll just go ahead and delete the file. Now I'll go to this YAML file that I've created earlier. I'll just go ahead and edit this, and then instead of pull request, I'll say that it should be on push. Right. So as you can see, that's the trigger. And then we've got a job called build and deploy. And then we say that it should run on Ubuntu, a machine with Ubuntu on it. And then these are the different tasks. The first one is a generic task, which is, oh, sorry about that. So the first one is a generic task, which is running the setting up the node on the host machine, and followed by that we do a npm install, which will install all the dependencies. After that, we do a gulp bundle and package, so that will create the SPPKG file, and then we move on to the GitHub Actions. The first one, as I showed in the slide earlier, is the login action, and the next one is the deploy action. Here you can see the SPPKG file being passed, and then we just this deploy action outputs the app ID, so we just print that app ID to say that the app has been deployed. And then finally we have the run script action, which runs this command spo mail send, and then it sends to this user. Now before running that, I'll just go on to my dev tenant, and this is the app that I have from the early deployment. So just go ahead and delete that just to make sure that there's only one app in my tenant for now. And go back to the workflow, and yeah, now that all the changes are done, I'll just go ahead and commit the changes. Essentially, I'm pushing the file now. So now that I've pushed the file, the workflow is triggered. If I click on actions, you can see that the workflow has started running. Click on build and deploy, and that's the job name. And then all the tasks start executing. The first one, as you saw, was setting up node, and now we install the dependencies, which is npm CI. This will install all the dependencies specified in the package.json file. Once this completes, usually this one takes a bit long because it has to install all the package dependencies onto the host machine. But yeah, you can see all the detailed instructions on as to what it does. And just don't worry about this waiting icon for the previous task. Sometimes, it just does that, but essentially it would have completed. Yeah, so after all the dependencies are installed, we'll just run gulp bundle and gulp package solution, and then we run the Office 365 CLI login command. This will firstly install Office 365 CLI onto the host machine, and then log in to the tenant with the username and password that we have passed to the action, and gives a nice message saying the login was successful. And then we move on to the deploy action, which will take the SPFx file and then deploy it onto the tenant, and says that the deployment is complete. After that, we just get the app ID, and then then we run the CLI run script action, which will send an email. So the whole process took about 1 minute and 35 seconds. So that's how quick it is. Now, if I go back to my app catalog and then refresh the page, you can see that the SPFx file has been deployed, and also I got an email saying that the deployment is complete. So yeah, those are our Office 365 CLI GitHub Actions. So just to recap, what we did was we created a workflow which had to run on the push event, or when a file is pushed, and then it uses the Linux as a host machine, runs the npm install and gulp bundle and package to create the SPFx file, and then we use the 3 actions that we have created using Office 365 CLI. Firstly, login to the tenant, and then deploy the SPFx file onto the tenant, and finally send an email using the run script action. Right. So those were the GitHub actions that we have for Office 365 CLI. Now, you might be curious on seeing what this login action actually does. So we have code for that hosted on GitHub. So if you go into the PnP repository and then go into the action CLI login, we'll see the code for the login command. If I click on source, so this is basically, sorry, before going to the source, I'll just go back to the repository itself. This is just a simple Typescript project. All it does is just runs the Office 365 CLI login command. So it's just a simple Typescript project. The only special part about this is this file, which is action.yaml, that tells GitHub that this TypeScript project is a GitHub action and not a normal TypeScript project. So if I just open that action.yaml, I can see that there's a name of the action and the description, and then it specifies we specify what are the inputs. So it requires username and password. So with this file, GitHub knows that this particular repository is a GitHub action. Now, if I show you the source folder and then open the TS file, you can see that we are using TypeScript. So we use this library called as Actions Core, and then we also use Actions Exec and Actions IO. These are all created by GitHub so that we can make use of those in our actions. So in order to get the input, we use this core.getInput function. So we get the username and the password, and then we output a message onto the console saying Office 365 CLI is being installed, and then the installation is complete. Now, to execute a command, we use the exec function that we imported from the exec library. So, and then all that does is run the Office 365 install command, which is npm install Office 365 CLI. So that gets executed first, and after that we have to log into the tenant. So we put a message to the console saying log into the tenant, and we run the login or type password username by supplying the username and password. Now, if you recollect, when I had opened the Office 365 CLI login command, this was the command that was clearly specified in the documentation, and we are using the same command in our TypeScript file. So login or type password, username and password to log into the tenant. So that's where Office 365 CLI is being used. And then once the login is done, we output the status, and then we say the login was successful, and if there was an error, then we catch it and output the error. So just to divert a bit, if in the GitHub workflow, say this action fails, then all the tasks after this particular action won't execute. The workflow just terminates saying that there was an error. Yeah. So yeah, that's how we create an action. So it's just a simple TypeScript project. And then if I just go into the package JSON, here we have a task which is the build task, and we say ncc build source main.ts. So what this does is essentially it takes the TypeScript file and all its dependencies and creates one single JavaScript file, which gets output. Which gets bundled into the dist folder as index.js, and this file index.js we will be specifying in the action.yaml to say whenever someone calls this action, please use the index.js file that is present in the dist folder to execute. So that's how we have created this action. Now, in order to look at the other Office 365 CLI actions, what you have to do is go into the GitHub marketplace and then just search for Office 365, and then you will see the other actions, which is the run script and the deploy app. Now, before wrapping up, I just want to mention about how to create a TypeScript action. So what GitHub have done is there is a repository called as Actions, and then in that there's a repository called as TypeScript Action in the Actions account of GitHub. Now in this action is nothing but a template. So all you have to do is just clone this onto your account and then start working on it. So if we quickly take a look at the action.yaml file, you can see that it says you have to write the name of the action and give it a description, and then just provide some inputs based on the requirement. And if we just look at the source, you can clearly see that there is a main file and a wait file. And if I expand the main file, it's just a simple function that outputs some messages and then the date, etc. So this is a simple TypeScript project. You can take this as the boilerplate and then start working on it. And then again in the package.json, we are using ncc build, which will create the file in the dist folder, and then that becomes the main file for the execution of this action. Now, using this particular boilerplate, I have created an action called as MS graph create event. What this action does is, if I just show you the diagram, whenever there is an event in GitHub, it uses PnP JS library and Microsoft Graph to create an event in the calendar of a specified person. So, for example, say when there is a pull request onto the repository, you might want to trigger a workflow and use this action, which will create an event or a reminder in the, say, owner's Outlook calendar, and then it will remind them to review this pull request the next day or at a specified time. So if I quickly show you the source, you'll come to know that it's just a simple TypeScript file, accepts all these details like tenant name and app ID and secret, gets the subject of the event that needs to be created, the body of the event, and the email address of the person in whose calendar the event has to be created, and then uses PnP.js to set up graph, and then composes the event, and then uses the graph.users.calendar.events.add command to create the event. So you can if I just show the README file of this action, there are some instructions on how to use this. So the steps will be to use this particular action. There's a typo there, sorry. And then specify the environment and the specify these variables, which is the tenant name, app ID, and app secret, and then the subject, body, and the email address. And this will create an event in the specified person's calendar. Right. So to wrap up, here are a few resources that can be used. I'll be posting the links for these in the description as well. We have some links for the GitHub Action documentation and all the Office 365 CLI GitHub Actions. And there is a blog post as well, which shows how to use these actions, and a link which was on some tips related to GitHub Actions as well. So yeah, just to recap again, we started the presentation by having a look at what a GitHub workflow is, and how to create a simple workflow and create some simple tasks like writing hello world, etc. And then we moved on to seeing what a GitHub action is and how to use the sleep GitHub action in our workflow. And after that, we moved on to the SPFx project, in which we created a workflow that was triggered on a push event, and that workflow basically did an npm install, did a gulp bundle and gulp package, and created the SPFx file. And then we used the Office 365 CLI actions to log into the tenant, deploy the SPFx file, and then to send an email. After that, we had a look at how the Logon Action was created, which was just a simple TypeScript project, which just uses the exec command and then executes the Office 365 CLI login command. And then we had a look at the boilerplate of a TypeScript action, which can be cloned, and then we can work on it to create a simple TypeScript action. And finally, we saw a GitHub action, which was the MS Graph create event action, which was based on the TypeScript boilerplate action that we saw earlier, and the create event action is used for creating events in a person's Outlook calendar. So yeah, that's it from my side. Thank you, and I hope you have enjoyed the session. If you have any questions, you can ask them to me on Twitter, or there is a blog post as well. You can put some comments on that, and I'll reply to them as soon as possible. Thank you very much once again, and have a nice day.